Again, this is a brand new tornado warning. It does include Charlotte and Halifax counties. This is starting out for Tuberville and then extending over to South Boston. So we gave you the first alert on this just a little bit ago, posted on our Facebook page and social media pages that the wind in this thing was intense. And sure enough, there's a little bit of rotation within this one right now that we're looking at. So please be aware that this is a storm that has the potential, whether it's a tornado or not, to produce 50 to 60 mile per hour winds within this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the velocity on, and right in here where you see this is where we could see. I'm not sure if we can pull Sky One up full. If we can, that would be awesome, and I'll kind of highlight where these are. Cluster Springs Road, Cluster Springs Elementary School, and along 501. Hankins Loop Road, these are some of the areas where that, if we do have a tornado, it could be. Again, this is not going to be visible. It's going to be rain wrapped. The rain is going to be intense with that, but there could be enough rotation within that for a tornado. Either way, we're looking at some 50 to 60 mile per hour winds, likely tracking towards that 501 corridor from, say, South Boston, extending down to Denniston. So just a heads up there. Again, a brand new tornado warning that we've got right now, currently in effect with this line of storms that's moving through. What's up,
Yeah,
Bradford?
I just want to give you the latest from the National Weather Service. It's severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado located near Cluster Springs or near Tuberville, moving northeast at 65 miles per hour.
Yeah, this thing is already past Tuberville, so it is racing. So
yeah, you're going to get damaging winds.
Yeah, just to give you some perspective, Bradford, if you want to come up to Bradford, what we can do is we'll kind of tag team this again. Okay. 501, it's crossing 501 right now. So we're kind of in between where the Doppler radars are going to be picking this thing up. And what you're going to notice with this system is that it is racing so fast that the radar is going to have a hard time picking up how fast it's moving. So that's why we've got to make sure that you're ready to go where these locations are. So South Boston, it's approaching you right now. It's going to be crossing 501 with some damaging wind gusts. Now, down in North Carolina, they also have had damaging wind gusts and had fatalities today. It doesn't have to be a tornado to get some damaging winds and some injuries with this. So if you're in and around just to the west of 501, the corridor right over South Boston, I need you in your safe place now. That means in your lower part of your basement, if you've got it. If you don't have a basement near, get away from windows, get in an interior room. And again, this may not be a tornado, but it is definitely, I'm very confident, it's producing some 50 to 60 mile per hour winds. See how it's bowing out right there? That means that the winds are racing out ahead of that. So if you're along 501, South Boston, all the way up towards Halifax, this is going to be impacting you. And you can see it right there, two areas.
Two distinct
right there.
Yep.
Hey, right there is what we're looking at. Now, it looks like, honestly, it may have been the worst of it, may have been just a few minutes ago, and it might be starting to weaken a little bit. But either way, it is definitely causing some issues. Bradford, you can kind of investigate this a little bit more, too.
Yes.
You're watching this.
So what happened was you and I were watching this. This was a linear kind of blowing. So basically winds were blowing out of the system. These were straight line winds. And then they really coupled and split into two distinct areas of rotation. So the National Weather Service probably saw that as soon as Brent and I saw it just in the past couple of minutes. The good news here is that you're losing the greens and the reds very close to one another. You can see that they really brightened up there just south and west of Halifax and south and west of South Boston. That's why they did issue two distinct tornado warnings. But the good news right now is they quickly pulsed up, and it doesn't take long, especially within these lines of thunderstorms, that they quickly pulse down. So right now we're just watching the damaging wind threat. Anytime you have a cell moving at 65 plus miles per hour,
right?
That's racing.
Yeah, and the deal is with this, so what we're looking at is rotation in the storm. So it doesn't mean it's not still producing wind, it just is not rotating as much. So we're not seeing winds rotating around that cell as much as it was before. There's two areas right there and one right there, but we're still getting an intense storm that's tracking toward the east and the northeast. It's going to be crossing the entire county of Halifax. So just know that if you're in eastern Halifax County, this thing is going to be headed your way within the next 15 to 20 minutes. It's going to be very quickly moving through. This whole line is about 50 to 60 miles per hour moving through, and that could bring some winds. Also across parts of Charlotte County, up towards Charlotte Courthouse, it's going to be tracking towards this general direction. So kind of going from west toward the northeast. So this is going to be moving through. What we'll do is take it a little bit closer and just kind of hold that still a little bit. So these are some of the areas right here along 501. It's going across South Boston right now, along that 501 corridor towards Clays Mill, Halifax, Scottsburg. You're next with that intense wind. The rain is also going to pick up with this too. So we're talking about rain that will be just really heavy as it's coming through,
Brent,
and that brings that coming right down. But what's that, Bradford?
I'm going to put a track on this real quick.
Yeah, put a track on that, and we'll kind of look at that.
I'm just going to do both of the lines here.
Yeah, you guys can keep me up full. I'll move out of the way so Bradford can see that, so you don't see his head doing that track. So he's going to put a track on this and kind of give us an idea where the worst wind is going to be with that going along that line right here, just east of Halifax and South Boston. So who can we give the clear? Almost, I'd say another 10 minutes or so, Halifax, South Boston, you may be in the clear with this. It's right over you now, but up towards Mount Laurel, we're going to give you the first alert around 5:02. Harrisburg, that's going to be headed to you about 5:07, and then towards Charlotte Courthouse around 5:13. That's your first alert that this is a powerful line of some intense wind and rain that's making its way toward the north and northeast with this system. Again, a tornado warning has been issued. However, it may not be a tornado at this point. It may be straight line winds that we need to be most worried about. Right in here over Crystal Hill, this is where that rotation still exists, and this is going to be tracking towards you in Hunting Creek Road. So there's still some rotation within that line. That's why that tornado warning has been issued and continues, but it's going to be heading over towards Crossroads and also towards Mount Laurel, and then headed up into Charlotte County within the next 15 to 20 minutes. So just know that this is the general area into northeastern Halifax County, east of 501, we now need to be most concerned about with this line. So there's still some rotation with it right there just north of Clays Mill. So if you're in Crossroads and then headed into Charlotte County, you definitely need to be aware that this storm has a lot of gusty winds with it that could cause some damage. And we're talking about wind damage from trees. The ground is still very wet right now, and we're still seeing that rain coming down. So it doesn't take much to cause these trees to topple over now. So Bradford, looking at two distinct areas right there and right here. So both of these are the ones that prompted these two separate tornado warnings. Again, one for Halifax, the community of Halifax, and then also South Boston. The two cells have now made their way east of that 501 corridor. Anything new that you're seeing? We'll check on power outages with this in a second, but there's already been some power outages in Halifax today. We're talking about a couple thousand without.
Right, yeah, and I would say the dominant circulation now, Brent, is going to be the northern one. The southern circulation, or the couplet there, has significantly weakened. That's why I did zoom in on that, and it looks like the National Weather Service did just update this warning as well. So I'll read that off here once I get that in on the chat feed. So.
Yep, and this one by far, as you just mentioned, by far this is the strongest part of that northern cell that's right there over Crossroads. That's going to be tracking towards the east. And yeah, if you want to, we can take this one. Take me full, Bradford. If you can, we'll keep your mic up. That way you can check the Weather Service.
Yeah, it
chat
just came in.
There.
It's still in effect. Tornado warning still in effect until 5:30. This is for Charlotte County.
Right.
So
let's
Charlotte see. County. 4:59. A severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located over Crystal Hill or near, moving northeast at 55.
That's a fast-moving storm. And just based on that, I know the warning goes until 5:30, but this thing is going to be gone by 5:30. Oh, yeah. It's going to cross Charlotte County, be gone by 5:30. So that's why we want you to make sure you follow this closely. If you're in Charlotte County right now, the storm has not quite gotten to you, but it is really close, probably within 10, 15 minutes away from getting right over that Halifax to Charlotte County line. So take your phone with you, your mobile app, go to that safe place. You can actually get our broadcast on the WDBJ7 mobile app, the First Alert mobile app. You can go on there and just hit watch live. So you'll be able to watch our coverage right now. But this is crossing into the east as we go over the next little bit into Charlotte County. Bradford, if you want to take it just a little bit, I'm going to switch batteries in my earpiece just so I can hear it. It's been on for a couple hours now. So take that and I'll swap out.
Okay. Yep. That sounds good, Brent. All right. So the National Weather Service is continuing these two tornado warnings. The northern warning for northern portions of Pittsylvania County heading into Charlotte counties, that one goes until 5:30 this evening. And then the southern one on the southern end of this cell, it now goes until 5:15 this evening. So from the National Weather Service, tornado warning continues. At 5 o'clock, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located over Scottsburg or near South Boston, moving northeast at 65. So these cells are 55 to 65 miles per hour. And even when you have cells moving that fast, I mean, think about going down the highway, 55, 65 miles per hour. This is how fast these lines are moving. So you don't have to have a tornado to have wind damage. We'll likely have wind damage in these locations just because of the storm movement right now. Also, I do want to reiterate, if you are in any of these areas under that tornado warning, that you need to get in your safe spot right now. Lowest level, most interior portion of whatever sturdy building that you are in, interior closet, interior hallway, interior bathroom, and protect your head from potentially flying debris. So I think the risk of us actually seeing a tornado at this moment is very low, but you can see, I mean, these cells are changing ever so rapidly in between radar scans. I mean, when you have a cell moving 55 to 65 miles per hour, things change in a hurry. And so these can quickly spin up and produce an EF0, EF1 tornado. And some of the wind damage reports that we could see in excess of 60 would match that damage as well. So you don't necessarily have to have a tornado to get wind damage. So that's something we're watching very closely right now. Let's zoom in a little bit closer. I am seeing some improvements with this, but what these supercells will do embedded within this line will circulate and kind of rotate and go through stages. So they'll pulse up, and that's why we did see those distinct areas of rotation, and then they'll pulse right back down, and then quickly pulse right back up. And so when they're working through these lines, that's what will happen. So that's what we're seeing right now. That's why the National Weather Service has continued those tornado warnings now for Halifax County and really all of Charlotte County as well, Brent.
Yeah, Bradford, this is a fast-moving cell, and also we have reports of power outages, so we do have some of those to pass along to. We can bring those up whenever our director can get that available, but most of them are actually in Halifax County from that line of storm, so you guys be the judge of when you can pull that up. But we've seen outages for Henry County, we've seen outages Pennsylvania, and we've also seen outages out across parts of Halifax. So here's what you're looking at right now. We've seen reports of about 1,000 customers without power in parts of Halifax rather. So some of those are not coming in. These are AEP, so these are only going to show AEP. There's other south side electrical power that are run across the south side, so you're not going to be seeing all of them in this one, but by far, there's definitely some outages across the area, and by far the AEP outages, a lot of those in Henry County and then extending into parts of Pennsylvania where that storm has gone through. So again, this is not the full view of the power outages because we're not able to show Halifax on that, but I've been checking to some of the other sources. There's about 1,200 people without power in Halifax County right now as a result of some of these storms that have been moving through. Now, these are the latest warnings. There's two of them distinct. The reason why is because there were two very distinct areas of rotation within that. The southern one has kind of weakened a little bit. The northern one is still intact, but this does kind of show you the area that we have been seeing that. There's the rotation down here. These are basically shear markers, and what you're looking at with that is where there has been some rotation that was detected. By far, some of the strongest was down right along the border with North Carolina. And that's where the storm actually came from. It came out of North Carolina and then tracked into Virginia, and you can see how the progression of that, it got the strongest right there as it moved over from North Carolina into Halifax County. So this is where the worst of it is. Now the storm has transitioned more over to the eastern side of 501. So if you're in northern and northeastern Halifax County, these are the spots where you need to be taking cover. Crossroads area, and now the storm is going to be extending over into Charlotte County. So Bradford, we can put that radar back on. I'll show you where that is. So there's the line, this area here, now crossing over very shortly. So I think really this area right here and this area right here kind of merging together, you can see in one distinct line. So I know the warnings, some of these warnings go from 5:15 to 5:30. It's 5:06 now. We're going to easily see this out of here before 5:30. So that's one good thing. But the other thing is we need you in your safe place until that happens. So if you're in Charlotte County right now, you definitely need to be in your shelter. That means the lowest part of your building, away from windows, because this thing has the potential to produce some 50 to 60 mile per hour winds. And just be prepared. There could be some power outages too. So take your mobile app if you got it. If you got the First Alert Weather app, take that with you and watch it and stream us, because you may lose power on your TV if you do have that on right now. So make sure you're aware of that. That is the only one that we have in terms of rotation and severe potential. There's still some really heavy rain from basically east of the Blue Ridge, from just south of Lynchburg over towards Evington and extending down into Gretna. Some intense rain here, which still could produce some gusty winds, but we're not thinking the winds are anywhere close to as strong as what we're seeing moving through parts of Halifax and into Charlotte County right now. So there's still thunder and lightning with that. Right there is a sign that there's still some power within that storm too that could bring some of those winds down to the surface. The deal with this today, this is a very powerful complex, a whole line which stretches from the Great Lakes all the way down to Florida, and the jet stream, several thousand feet up, low-level jet, it's going at about 80 to 100 miles per hour. So what ends up happening, it's pushing these storms along super fast, and every once in a while, when the thunderstorms grow tall enough, they can actually take advantage of some of that wind and push it down to the ground, and that's when you get some of these intense storms that what we're seeing. Now, you notice some flashing right over here. This is just outside of our area, so more than likely, just based on our experience in the past, more than likely, Weather Service is going to let these expire, and these will transition to more of a severe thunderstorm. Bradford, I think you got a little more on that.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. That's what the National Weather Service, they're going to let the southern tornado warning expire at 5:15. Severe thunderstorm warning will take over for that, but the northern cell, that tornado warning still goes until 5:30 as of right now.
That's going to continue. Okay.
Yep.
So that one by far still has some pretty intense rotation with that one too. If we could put a track on it when you get a chance, Bradford, yep, we'll look at that and we'll give you another idea on when we may see this clear. Again, it's this northern one right in here that will continue until 5:30. The other one will be allowed to expire at 5:15, and that's both of these are tracking across Charlotte County. So just a heads up, if you're in Halifax and you're listening to us now in Halifax County, you can be coming out of your safe location. You're okay now. This storm is tracking right there into Halifax County. Tracking out of Halifax into Charlotte. So if you're in Halifax, you're okay. You can come out of your safe shelter. Still going to be some rain, probably some gusty winds, but the worst of that storm has now moved on out. Also keeping an eye, honestly, on this little line right up here into Appomattox. It's formed a line.
The supercell split. It's split. That's the northern cell that came out of northern portions of Halifax County, lifted north. So basically the rotation that was inside of it pushed it north. So
kind of split.
And that one's moving at 65,
Yeah, so this one's still producing some gusty winds with it. Not necessarily tornadic, but it's this one right in here that we need to keep a close watch on right there. Going into Charlotte County, gusty winds possible in Appomattox too. So if you're in Appomattox, you don't have a warning out for you, but this is definitely going to be the possibility of some gusty winds. So let's give you the first alert right now. Evergreen there over Appomattox. Again, not under a tornado warning, but likely some very gusty winds coming in very shortly. So almost now, you're going to be experiencing those. Charlotte Courthouse at about 5:15. Head over to Holiday Lake State Park there. In Appomattox, you're going to be experiencing those gusty winds, and over towards Hampton, Sydney, that's going to be tracking just outside of our viewing area. So this is definitely one of the most active afternoons that we've seen in a while, and proof that, you can get severe weather and severe thunderstorms even during the winter months. And it is actually some of those things that we keep an eye on all year round. But in the winter months, it kind of catches folks. We don't want it to catch you by surprise, and we hope it didn't because we had that in the forecast today, but it definitely is odd to have severe weather and tornado warnings in the middle of the winter months. The back edge of this rain now coming through the Roanoke Valley, extending along the 220 corridor, so we're going to start to see that rain shut off. Through the New River Valley, it's already stopped and ended, and this will push to the east as we go over the next couple hours. So there's still the possibility of some localized flooding, ponding water, and some runoff, especially into Bedford County, extending down into northern Pennsylvania, where we could have very heavy rain that's still falling. So watch out for that if you're traveling 460 from, say, the Roanoke Valley over towards Evington, also into Lynchburg, where we've got that flash flood watch that continues through the rest of this evening. So a very active stretch of weather for us. Now, the flood warning potential still along that border with North Carolina from Patrick County over to Henry, Halifax County, and just to the east there, of course, Pennsylvania as well. This is where the greatest amount of rain has been falling falling today. We've seen 1 to 3 inches of rain, and that's caused some of that runoff and some issues. There's also a river flood warning for the Dan River. We're expected the Dan River to get up to minor, if not moderate flooding towards South Boston as we get into Wednesday. So this is going to be the area right in here where we do have some river issues when it comes to that. So we'll keep you updated. For the Roanoke River, we've been doing some checking on that. Roanoke River likely to get to action stage, so just below flood stage, but still enough that we'll have some side effects to folks that do along the Roanoke River Greenway. Just know that there may be some issues there. And then, of course, down across the Dan River. Those are the main rivers where we are seeing some flooding issues at this time. All right, let's take you back over to that tornado warning in Bradford. We'll let you chime in if you've got any new info from the Weather Service, but at this time, there are 2 areas, distinct areas, kind of split. We've got one towards Appomattox, but at this one right here that's going right through Charlotte County, where we have some rotation still possible, and that tornado warning will last until right around 5:30 for this line right there. Let's get ready to cross into Charlotte Courthouse, and then we'll move to the east of Charlotte Courthouse within the next 15 minutes. So just a heads up there. It doesn't look as, definitely doesn't look as strong or as intense as it was before, but again, it's pretty far away from the radar now, so we're kind of getting a skewed version of what we may be seeing with that Bradford.
That's right. I mean, you can see a little bit distinct there, but certainly it's getting away from the radar site, kind of splitting the difference between Wakefield and us. So right now, there's really not any distinct or kind of imminent threat from a tornado. This is much more of a straight line wind damage threat with wind gusts up to or in excess of 60 miles per hour. But they do continue the tornado warning now for all of Charlotte County. And that one's blasting through Charlotte Courthouse area right now, right along 40. It's a rough go of it for that evening commute. The National Weather Service is going to continue with this warning until 5:30 this evening. At 5:09, severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was 8 miles north of Clover, moving northeast at 55. So when you have storm movements, like we've been saying, between 55 and 65 miles per hour, it doesn't take much to get damaging wind gusts out of that, because all of that wind and the forward momentum from that storm is pushing out of that, and it's coming down to the surface. And so 2 circulations that prompted the tornado warnings just a little bit ago have kind of basically disappeared from the radar site as of right now. Let's bring back a regular reflectivity right now, and you can see kind of 2 distinct areas right now. I'm going to point them out to you here. Right here, kind of pushing out of our hometowns, moving into Mecklenburg, Lunenburg counties just outside of our viewing area right now. That was the one cell. This is the other cell, now into southern portions of Charlotte County that the National Weather Service is watching for some rotation. Right along 40 there and 501, moving right through the Charlotte Courthouse area, lifting off to the north and the east. And this is going to be out of our viewing area likely here within the next 15 to 20 minutes or so as it does move off to the north and east. Back behind it, the ongoing flash flooding threat right now. And let's broaden out the picture here, and you can see very extensive rainfall right now. This is moderate to heavy rainfall. It's a rough go right along 460 here through Bedford, the town of Bedford, through Campbell County as well, down south and east of there between 460 and 40 here from Gretna, Alta Vista through Evington as well. This is all lifting off to the north and east. So heads up for you folks in Lynchburg, city of Lynchburg, over toward Appomattox. Some very heavy rainfall. Moneta through Smith Mountain Lake. And the back edge of that now is working through the Roanoke Valley. So we're going to dry out nicely here over the next probably 2 to 3 hours or so for most of our hometowns. The flash flooding threat still a concern. A lot of area roadways have been impacted because of all the rainfall we've seen over the past several hours. And then also watching the potential here, obviously, for some damaging wind gusts as well, Brent.
Yeah, Bradford, let's zoom in a little bit closer to Charlotte County now. Drake's Branch, Keysville, you guys are in the path of this right now. So this is where you'd want to get into your safe location. There's Drake's Branch, Keysville just off to the east of that. So here's Charlotte Courthouse. Here's where that line is currently. The potential for gusty winds crossing over Phoenix, approaching Charlotte Courthouse as we speak. Drake's Branch are going to be next with that, and this is going to be tracking towards the east over the next little bit. So again, a severe thunderstorm warning and also a tornado warning, which was issued for that area. So just keep that in mind. The tornado warning, again, will continue until about 5:30 with this. I do feel like that this is going to cross through the county between now and the next 10 to 15 minutes. So it's a very fast-moving system with that. Again, Charlotte County, Campbell, also Halifax County in with that severe thunderstorm warning, and also the tornado warning that we've been looking at. It looks like they may be canceling this now, allowed to expire.
Yeah, the National Weather Service. The tornado threat has diminished and the tornado warning has been canceled. However, large hail and damaging winds remain likely, and a severe thunderstorm warning remains for that area.
Yeah, so they have canceled that. So they've allowed this to expire, now replaced with that severe thunderstorm warning that's going to go until 5:45. So that's our cue. Basically, we're going to wrap up this particular coverage of that now that that tornado warning has expired. The severe risk is still there, so just know that there's still the potential for some strong wind gusts of 50 to 60 miles per hour within that as it crosses Charlotte County, but we should start to see the severe threat with that damaging wind begin to taper off over the next half hour or so as that line crosses through. Then we switch back over to a bit more of a heavy rain and flood threat until that line moves out too. We're going to end our coverage here. We're going to get back to coverage in just a little bit and also back to our newscast as well. But again, the severe threat winding down over the next half hour for folks in Charlotte County as that system moves out.